As I understand it, his statement that he alone raped her, hit her in the head, dragged her down to this area, saw nobody else, entirely consistent with the physical evidence and the forensic evidence.
Is the physical evidence more consistent with a gang rape or more consistent with a single perpetrator?
I think the physical evidence, including the lack of vaginal injuries, it's more, not impossible for gang rape, but it's more consistent with a single perpetrator.
Police operator 414, where's emergency?
Hello, this is Central Park Base. And we just got a call of a disorderly group, about 30 to 40 male blacks inside Central Park, approximately 100th Street and East Drive, tackling disorderly and harassing people. A group about 30 to 40 male blacks inside Central Park. A group about 30 to 40 male blacks.
Joggers and bikers are out in force. The regulars know that the North End and East Harlem, isolated and dark, can be dangerous. And on this moonlit night, police say roaming packs of teens, more than 40 kids, swoop into the park looking for trouble. The joggers make easy targets, and the night soon turns to terror. By dawn, a total of 12 senseless attacks. The assault of one man is particularly violent.
His head looked like it was dipped in a bucket of blood. It was that vicious of an attack.
But by far the most serious is an attack on a 28-year-old runner who takes a shortcut down a dimly lit road. She's not found until after 1 o'clock in the morning, in a coma and barely clinging to life.
A terror spree through Central Park.
Soon the whole world knows her simply as the Central Park Jogger.
A Wall Street investment banker jogging in the park last night was raped and battered unconscious by a marauding gang of teenagers.
A brutal gang rape, part of a night of random attacks called wilding.
Police are still questioning some of the young suspects they believe were involved in last night's attack.
You have the right to remain silent and to refuse to answer any questions. Do you understand?
Within 48 hours, the police have suspects and confessions to various crimes committed that night, including the attack on the jogger.
Within 48 hours, the police have suspects and confessions. Within 48 hours, the police have suspects and confessions to various crimes committed that night, including the attack on the jogger.
prayer and worship on First Avenue. A small gathering of ministers and residents assembled at a noon vigil for the Central Park rape victim and for the city that has spawned such ugly violence.
We ask for healing. Healing for this victim who lies on the threshold of death.
What's important is that we give support to the woman who's been brutally attacked and her family. This is not a time to blame one group or one community.
They prayed in the shadow of Metropolitan Hospital, where the 28-year-old investment banker remains in a coma after her savage beating and rape by a gang of Harlem teens as she jogged in Central Park Wednesday night. Though doctors have taken her off the breathing machine and she is breathing on her own, a brain scan reveals probable severe brain damage.
The best case is a complete recovery. I think that would be an awful lot to hope for here. And it's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely.
Meanwhile, downtown, the grand jury was reportedly set to view videotape statements from the arrested suspects and consider lab tests from their bloodstained clothes. Those on the street hope the crime will not be seen as a racial attack.
It could have been a black person. If a black person was there at that time, it could have happened to her.
What are you afraid of for our city?
This racism, I hope it doesn't break out into another racism thing like back in the 60s.
While there was a message of caring, concern, and racial reconciliation, others are angry, upset that so much attention is being paid to this victim only because they say she is white.
There are other worse things that are happening in the city. And when it happened to a black, they never do the media's never here.
Tonight, the victim's fellow joggers showed their support by assembling in Central Park at the spot where she was attacked. Mayor Koch led another service outside the hospital.
Let hate and rancor be removed from our hearts, and in their place let wisdom and justice rule our actions.
The New York Boys Choir sang to show the city cares. I'm Eric Shawn at Metropolitan Hospital in Manhattan.
The confessions stun the city. These are the actual videotapes. Suspect Antron McCrae is 15.
I grabbed one arm. So I could grab one arm and grab her legs and stuff. And then we got what's the chance getting on her? Like getting top off.
Raymond Santana, age 14.
And what was he doing with his hands?
He was throwing her mouth. Every time she was talking, he was smacking. He said, "Sit up." He kept smacking.
Kevin Richardson, also 14.
You pussy, you go for browser.
And finally, the only teen charged as an adult, 16-year-old Corey Wise.
This is my first rape. I never did this before. This will be my last time doing it. This is my first experiment. This will be my last.
Word gets out, widely reported, that the suspects think their crime is a joke, that they even sing about it.
She wanted to do the wild thing.
Detective Herb Arroyo was the lead investigator.
They were chanting for a small amount of time, the wild thing.
You're certain of that?
Oh, it could be heard by many people.
Everybody started running, laughing.
They felt pretty good about what they done?
Yeah.
In Central Park, fellow joggers expressed their sympathy and their rage.
I know I just wanted to come up here, find somebody, and do bodily harm. I also wanted to take them after they get out of jail and put them in the gorilla cage in the park zoo, the new zoo, see if they could survive it. I think that's analogous to what they did to her.
You know, this park is so wonderful, and the running is so wonderful. To have these goddamn people ruin it. That's it. I would start cursing, so I better not.
There is anger over this incident that seems to have only grown in the days since the assault occurred.
For a city that has been simmering for years over the issue of race, this vicious crime with young black defendants and a white female victim brings the issue to the boiling point.
You don't think this would happen? You don't think we would be here if there was a black woman?
No. If it was a black woman, y'all wouldn't even be here. This city has two ways of dealing with crime victims. One when you're white, one when you're not.
We would like to execute them now. Is that your position?
The debate soon erupts on national television.
And these kids should be made examples for the rest of the country that if you do a crime, you're going to get convicted. If you're guilty, you're either going to jail or you're going to hang. Say she survives. These rapists, the punishment has to fit the crime. Castrate them. They can't rape again.
14 months after the crime is committed, justice comes swiftly, with the first of 2 trials in the Central Park jogger case. There is almost as much drama outside the courtroom as in it, and outside is where the cameras are. Defense attorneys argue their clients are innocent, pointing out that the semen sample taken from the scene, found on the jogger's socks, is a mystery and does not match any of the defendants. And as for those videotaped confessions, the defense argues they are false and were coerced.
How many times was she hit with the pipe? Twice, in the ribs, in the sock, and in the head.
But the judge permits the tapes to be played in court. They make a profound impression on the jury.
Did somebody take her clothes off?
Yeah.
Okay, who took her clothes off?
One of us.
Did somebody have sex with her?
Yeah.
Did a lot of people have sex with her?
Yeah.
In perhaps the most poignant moment, prosecutors called the jogger herself to the stand. She has made a remarkable recovery. Still, she has no memory of the attack, no memory of going jogging. She cannot identify any of the defendants. But that is not the prosecutor's point. Juror Ben Neal.
I mean, I felt sorry for the lady. She looked like she could hardly make it up to the stand, but I'm not sure, but I believe she had the cane with her.
Prosecutors say a blonde pubic hair found on the clothes of defendant Kevin Richardson is similar to the hair of the victim. But they provide almost no other physical evidence linking the defendants to the crime.
But they provide almost no other physical evidence linking the defendants to the crime.
My name is Elizabeth Lederer. I'm an assistant district attorney in New York County. I'd like to ask you some questions about what happened in Central Park on the night of April 19th, 1989. Before I ask you about what happened, let me just ask, sir, could you please give your name?
My name is Greg.
And what is your relation to this young man here? Your father? Also present in the room right now are Detective Arroyo and Detective Sheehan from the police department. Before I go any further, I want to warn you of your rights with respect to statements that you may make now. You have the right to remain silent and to refuse to answer any questions. Do you understand? Okay, could you answer out loud, please? Anything that you say can be used against you in court. Do you understand? You have the right to consult a lawyer now before any questioning and have a lawyer present during any questioning. Do you understand? If you have no lawyer or cannot afford a lawyer will be provided for you now free of charge before any questioning. Do you understand? Now that I've advised you of your rights, are you willing to tell me the truth about what happened in Central Park on the night of April 19th of 1989? Let me just say so that the record's clear, there is somebody else in the room with us who is recording the statement so that we can be sure that we get it right. It is now 2:20 in the morning of April 21st of 1989, and we are at the 24th precinct. Okay? Would you please sit up and tell me what your name is? I'm sorry, you have to say it loud.
My name is Santana.
And how old are you?
14.
Great. And is this your father who's seated next to you?
Yes.
Right. The detectives who are in the room, Detective Arroyo and Detective Sheehan, you've met them earlier in the evening, isn't that right?
Yes.
And did they take a statement from you?
Yes.
When they took that statement from you, did they give you the rights that I've just read to you before they took the statement?
Yes.
Have you had something to eat this evening?
Yes.
You feeling all right?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you tell me what happened on the night of April 19th of 1989?
Well, it was supposed to be a bunch of us in my Central Park to rob bicyclists and joggers.
What time did you go to the Central Park?
9 o'clock.
And when you say there were a bunch of us, who was there?
Me, myself, friend Terrence Campbell, a friend.
What's Terrence's last name? Campbell? Who else?
A friend named Jermaine.
Jermaine?
Yeah.
Do you know Jermaine's last name? Is Jermaine a man or a woman? Who else was there?
A friend named Michael.
What's Michael's last name?
Briscoe.
Briscoe?
A friend named Jason.
What's Jason's last name?
His last name.
friend named Ramsey.
What's Ramsey's last name? Yeah.
Smith. And his brother's name is Jomo.
Jomo?
Yeah, same last name.
Where do they live?
They live.
Lamont? Is that Lamont McCall?
Yeah.
How about Kevin Richardson?
He came with the other group.
Okay. Lamont McCall was with you, though?
Yeah, he's with us.
Who else was with your group? Antoine McCrae?
Yeah, him. And his other cousin, Clarence.
Clarence Thomas?
Yes, they was with us too.
Okay. And where did you all meet up?
About 110th and 5th. As we was entering, that's when Kevin and, his boys came. And they met up with us on the other side.
Before you met up with Kevin, how many people were in your group?
About 15. About 15, 16.
And when Kevin came and joined you, how many people were in his group?
33.
He had 33 all by himself, or all together you were?
All together.
The group came to a group of 33 people. In your group, before you met the other group, whose idea was it to go to Central Park?
I came there was going to Central Park.
Where did you go when you went into Central Park? When you met these people before you went into the park?
Yeah, right there, right at the entrance before we went. And we all went in together.
Where'd you go when you went in the park?
We went to we went south. So we got to this gate. Then we went up this hill.
When you got to a gate, what kind of a gate was that?
It was like a black gate where it had grass inside. A big black gate going around with grass inside of it.
Do you have any idea what street that's near?
I think it's 150 something.
Was the gate open?
It was closed.
Before you went into the park that night, did you have any crack to smoke?
No, I don't take drugs.
Okay, so you didn't do any drugs?
No, I don't do drugs.
Did you drink?
No, I don't drink.
So you were pretty clear-headed when you went to the park that night?
Yeah.
What time was it?
It was about 9 o'clock when we was inside the park.
Okay, what happened when you got to the gate?
There was this man there. And, everybody was going to beat up the man. But somebody yelled out, they knew him. So nobody messed with him.
Okay, well, what did this man look like? Was he a jogger? Was he...
He was just walking through the park.
Nicely dressed?
No.
Was he a bum?
Nah.
Okay, so somebody said... Okay, we're having a little bit of noise outside. It's hard to hear. I'm just going to step outside and tell them to keep it down. Rape in the first degree, sodomy in the first degree, sexual abuse in the first degree, attempted murder in the second degree.
This is Alec Roberts in New York. There were more indictments today in the brutal gang rape of the 28-year-old Wall Street executive. 5 teens between the ages of 15 and 17 were charged with numerous rape, sodomy, and assault counts. Pleas by their attorneys for bail were denied.
You've seen these young children come before you, Judge. You've seen what they look like. You've seen the mass hysteria that's in the paper. Perhaps that was some advantage of having them to come before you so you could actually see these children.
All of the defendants gave videotaped statements to police implicating themselves or others, but some of their attorneys charged today that police obtained the confessions by force.
Police obtained the confessions by force.
The press statement, he said he had nothing to do with it, and they put pressure on him, a lot of pressure. He was slapped around, and it is our contention that whatever statements he made were the product of psychological and physical coercion.
One of the teens, 14-year-old Clarence Thomas, was not indicted. He walked out of court, but could be indicted later. Meanwhile, the rape victim, who remains comatose, took a turn for the worse. She has contracted pneumonia.
We still have her on the ventilator, and we're going to keep her on it until we see for sure how things are developing. But this last problem is under control.
Although police have not said the attack was racially motivated, the jogger was white and her alleged attackers black, some members of the black community charged the arrests are a racially motivated rush to judgment. In New York, this is Alec Roberts.
none of the joggers' blood is found on any of the defendants.
For instance, none of the joggers' blood is found on any of the defendants.
Angela Cuffey, sister of Kevin Richardson.
There was no evidence. There was no DNA. We were like, well, the truth is going to come out here. The jury has to see that there's no case here.
And now, after 8 weeks of trial and 10 days of deliberations, a struggling and divided jury has finally reached a verdict.
In the end, the confessions prove overwhelming. 4 of the defendants are found guilty of rape, 1 of sexual assault. 1 is also found guilty of attempted murder. All 5 are convicted of assault, riot, or both in the other attacks in the park that night.
I will never forget the look on Kevin's face when he heard the first guilty verdict. He turned and he looked at us, and amazed. How could they find me guilty?
Lead prosecutor Elizabeth Lederer is cheered and booed just as loudly. The defendants' families take their rage out on the press.
I'm pleased that we have a verdict, and I think it's a fair verdict.
The defendants are sentenced to terms of 5 to 15 years. But police know someone else is still out there. Someone who raped the jogger and left his semen at the scene.
But police know someone else is still out there. Someone who raped the jogger and left his semen at the scene.
Her story is not of an attack, but rather one of healing. Courage.
My story isn't about anger or fear or hatred or being a victim.
Recovery.
My recovery was a gift that I wanted to share. And it's been a gift to my mind, my body, and my spirit.
Hope.
It was a sense of taking back something that had been taken away from me, and it filled me with such hope. It was great.
On April 19th, 1989, a young woman went for a run in New York Central Park shortly after 9 p.m. Hours later, 2 men wandering the park found her near death from a brutal beating and sexual assault. In a coma with 75% blood loss, a fierce blow to the head, and severe exposure, doctors at Metropolitan Hospital worried that this young woman might not survive.
I have no memory of the horror of that night, of the violence, of the beating, of the feeling of helplessness, of powerlessness.
14 years later, Trisha Meili, known only to the world as the Central Park Jogger, revealed her name and an amazing story of survival and recovery in her best-selling memoir, I Am the Central Park Jogger, a story of hope and possibility. Trisha Meili, I Am the Central Park Jogger. Courage, recovery, hope.
I'd like to share with you 3 lessons that I learned during my recovery. First, the importance of support. Second, to be proud of what you can do rather than focus on what you can't do. And third, the power of the present moment.
She shares this powerful message of healing, courage, and hope with audiences everywhere.
I'm an ordinary person who had something extraordinary happen. I suffered this extraordinary level of violence, but I also experienced an extraordinary level of human kindness and love. And it's because of that outpouring of support that I'm able to talk to you this morning. Now, some of that support came from strangers. And in the hospital after the attack, thankfully, my family and close friends were with me through the entire ordeal. But people from around the world sent letters and cards and gifts. There were poems sent from children and healing oils and holy water. And yes, I did get 18 roses from Frank Sinatra. And it continued. Months after the attack, a man ran the New York City Marathon in November of 1989 in my honor. I found out later that he hadn't run the race in 6 years and decided to do it for me. And on the day after the race, that Monday, he Federal Expressed his medal up to me at Gaylord Hospital, where I was for rehabilitation. And with it came a note that said, "This is for you as you get closer to completing your own marathon." And to me, a fellow runner, that he would give to me his medal that represented not only, that day, that race day, but the weeks and months of training just meant so much to me. And I've kept that medal, and here it is. This is the '89 medal from the New York City Marathon. And I keep it very close to my heart.
Investigators tell Primetime they believe Reyes and the teens raped the jogger together. The lead detective on the case, who is now retired, has another theory.
No one ever saw this guy, Mateus Reyes. He wasn't described by anyone in the group. He doesn't even know anyone in the group.
So you do not think he was simply the sixth rapist in the sense that he was actually with the others that night?
No, he was not with the others that night.
You're certain of that?
I do believe he was at the scene. He admits to it. There's DNA that links him to it. But he wasn't with them at the time when they were all there.
Let me make sure I understand you. Mateus Reyes raped the Central Park jogger, but he was not there with the defendant.
That is correct.
So, when was he there?
I believe she was already raped, assaulted, and left down at the bottom of the hill there.
So you think that Mateus Reyes stumbles upon her, finds her bleeding from the head, virtually unconscious, and then rapes her?
That's correct.
So Detective Arroyo is convinced Reyes and the teens are all guilty. But what about the physical evidence? What theory does it support? We asked former New York City Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Michael Baden to review all the scientific testimony and to return to the crime scene and answer this question. Could one person alone have raped the Central Park jogger?
As I understand it, his statement that he alone raped her, hit her on the head, dragged her down to this area, saw nobody else, entirely consistent with the physical evidence and the forensic evidence.
Is the physical evidence more consistent with a gang rape or more consistent with a single perpetrator?
I think the physical evidence, including the lack of vaginal injuries, it's more, not impossible for gang rape, but it's more consistent with a single perpetrator.
Dr. Baden also says with as much blood as the jogger lost, this is the crime scene photo of her white T-shirt stained red, it is hard to believe not a drop was found on any of the teens. But what about the blonde hairs found on one of the defendants? At trial, prosecutors said they were consistent with the joggers. Primetime has learned that after Reyes came forward, the hairs were retested using new DNA technology, and they are not the joggers. So tonight, investigators tell us they are retesting everything. But sources say none of it so far links the teens to the rape.
They are retesting everything. But sources say none of it so far links the teens to the rape.
Those confessions were false and coerced. But Detective Bert Arroyo sat in on some of those confessions and says everything went by the book. The confessions were given voluntarily.
Yes.
The confessions were given without coercion.
Yes. I believe these kids did it. They said they did it. The videotapes speak for themselves.
Police say they interviewed more than 30 kids who were in the park that night, and many of them quickly focused suspicions on the 5 teens. Soon, the 5 made statements, putting themselves in the middle of the attacks, including the rape of the jogger. But the families tell a very different story.
They were telling us that Kevin is going to come home with us, that he's a good boy. They know he didn't do anything.
That he's a good boy?
Yeah, that he's a good boy, and they know he didn't do anything, and that we can take him home.
But this is not, of course, what happened. Anyone under 16 is supposed to have a parent with them during police questioning. But these parents say they suspect their children were questioned without them. Grace Cuffey is Kevin Richardson's mother.
Every 15, 20 minutes, I kept going to the door, and I said, look, I want to see my son. And they still wouldn't let us see them.
How long did this go on?
All night. All night? All night.
There were no kids questioned without a parent present. And every single written statement shows that clearly.
The parents signed them.
Parents signed them.
Also present are, I believe, your parents.
And parents were also there during the juveniles' videotaped confessions. So why didn't they object then? They say it was because police led them to believe their children were merely witnesses, not suspects, and that after making the tapes, they'd be released.
Had we known that they were going to turn around and say that he raped her, you think we would have let him do a videotape?
Inside the interrogation room, Yusuf Salam says the pressure was intense, with police playing different roles.
Some of them wanting to attack you, others holding them back, others telling you, you better tell us something. It could be almost tantamount to someone having a gun to your head. You're 15 years old, but you know sooner or later that bullet is going to come out. That's the type of feeling that I had.
As for Corey Wise, who says he was in the park that night and witnessed some of the other attacks, he says police accused him of lying, cursed him, and even slapped him until he would admit to being involved in the rape too. Police deny it. Was what you confessed to about being there when the Central Park jogger was raped, was that true?
No, of course it wasn't true.
Then why did you say it?
I just told her I was going to go home.
Your mom was waiting to pick you up.
Yes. And I fell for it. The okey doke. I fell for it.
When did it hit you? You weren't going home.
When the officer said you ain't going home, you're going straight to jail. You ain't going home. You got yourself a new home.
No one ever promised any of these defendants that they could go home. No one. Absolutely not. This is in their own minds.
So the parents are lying when they say that these promises were made.
They absolutely are lying.
I'm wondering whether you think it's possible that inadvertently the police or the prosecutors suggested to these young people what it is they wanted to, you in fact wanted to hear, and they just parroted it back.
Absolutely not.
No question.
Absolutely not.
Mrs. Wise, can you just say what you think about your son before and about the woman?
Just speak the items as well.
Please leave me alone. Just go. Please.
This is gross.
All right, that's it. Yeah, but you're the one with the wireless microphone in your bag. All right, that works. Don't worry. Just works. Okay. All right, just works. Just microphones. Man.
No cameras.
What can you tell me?
We're not going to get anything this time.
I just found out about it.
Yeah.
5:30 this morning.
Who told you?
I'm looking for my son.
Yeah. Where was he?
He's been in the precinct. They took him from when he went to school.
Were you worried at all if he didn't come home?
Yes, I kept calling the police looking for him.
What did the police tell you? Okay, folks.
They were going to help me find him. And I left my number at different precincts.
When you found out that he was here,
I just found out about an hour ago.
and what did they tell you when you came here?
I can't visit him because he's 16 years old.
Did they tell you what he was charged with?
Just being there.
Tell us about the incident. You've heard about the incident. What can you tell us about it?
And about the woman.
Had to what?
Any feelings on the woman who's in the hospital right now, Ms. Wise?
No. He's not that kind of kid. I can't really believe that this happened.
What about the friends that he runs with?
Well, that's just it. It's funny that he was with them because those are not the friends that he grew up with.
Those are not good friends?
Please get the camera on my face.
David?
A cop to get shot or a white person. Okay, that's like I said, it takes a cop to get shot or a white person, something to happen to a white person for them to want to put cops in the neighborhood. It should have already been here. Just like the TNT, that should have already been there.
But you know, it goes beyond that. It takes like an investment banker getting raped or something really brutal like that happening for people to start realizing what poverty and what drug are going through. I mean, it takes something like that, then maybe someone will start thinking how people are getting brutalized themselves, you know. By the age 14, they're monster. And that's what's sad.
And to me, they categorize them as a monster. But I go to school with two of them. And it's hard for me to believe that they would do something because I talk to Raymond every day. I talk to him, I sit down, and he wasn't the type of person that would do something. So I don't know what led him up to doing that. It had to be something. But I just don't think jail is gonna be the answer. When you put someone in jail, that's not changing nothing. You have to me, something's wrong. So they have to get help.
Punished when they kill somebody, especially for
Yes.
Yeah.
They have to be punished. Behind bars, something must be wrong with them.
And it changed the way people live their lives, made everyone here feel a little more vulnerable, and introduced us all to a new word, wilding, a new definition of urban terror.
So when 5 young teens confessed and were sent to prison, many people breathed a little easier. But now,
The Central Park Jogger. An explosive new confession. When you first saw her, what was your intention?
To attack her.
Tonight, the crime that 13 years ago sent shockwaves through New York City.
But now, out of the blue, a serial predator steps forward and turns the case upside down.
Did you rape the Central Park Jogger?
Yeah, I did.
Did you do it alone?
Yeah, I was alone that night.
If he acted alone, why did these 5 young men confess? And what really happened in Central Park that night? And you don't have to take his word for it. There is proof. Cynthia McFadden continues now with his dramatic first-person account of that night. Some of it is very graphic and chilling to hear.
Did you attack the Central Park Jogger?
Yeah, I did.
Did you do it alone?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Did you rape her?
Yes.
Did you beat her?
Mm-hmm.
Did you leave her for dead?
I thought I left her there for dead. I didn't, she was out. When I look back, and I could, when somebody's nostrils, the nose or something might be broken and blood might be triggering to that, it sounds like a hard sound. And I heard, as I was walking away, I heard the heavy breathing.
This is Matias Reyes, in prison today. But back in 1989, at the same time the city is focused on the young defendants in the Central Park Jogger case, police are now warning women on a violent criminal called the East Side Rapist is at large.
He sexually assaulted the victim and then stabbed him.
Raped and attempted to kill another woman. What no one knows is that he is Matias Reyes. Then, 4 months after the Jogger attack, and just blocks from where she was raped, Reyes is arrested and admits to robbing, raping, and viciously attacking 4 women and murdering one of them. And though he keeps his role in the Central Park case a secret, Reyes does tell detectives about his M.O., how he works alone, and about the sadistic choice he gave victims so they couldn't ID him.
I just told her, your eyes are your life, that's it.
You said to her, your eyes are your life?
Yeah, and I poked in the eye.
With the knife?
Yeah, with the butter knife.
He is a merciless killer, raping and stabbing a pregnant woman in her basement apartment while her 3 children cried in the next room.
When she said, you stabbed me, I don't remember what. I kept on stabbing her, and I don't know in what places I got it. My babies were screaming, too.
Reyes is sentenced to 33 1/3 years to life in prison. But despite the fact that he attacked his victims only blocks from where the Jogger was found, neither the police nor prosecutors made the link.
It was like a perfect crime. The only reason it didn't come up is because I got away with it.
Until now, and only because he's speaking out. And there is one indisputable fact that makes his confession credible. Remember the socks and the mystery semen? Investigators say the DNA is his, a match. Walk me through your attack of the Central Park Jogger. He started following her as she ran north here on the park's main road. He drew us a detailed map of his route that night. He says the moment he saw her, he began running behind her.
But one of the things that drew me about her was her body and the spandex that she had on. So she also had a Walkman.
When you first saw her, what was your intention?
to attack her, to take everything that she had and to rape her. And that was already in my head. And as she proceeded to go along, she wasn't jogging that fast, so I zigzagged back and forth from the bridle path to the street.
He's stalking her, pacing her for several minutes.
Just keeping an eye on her, making sure, just timing it, because I wasn't sure she was going to go the long way or she was going to cut through the section that they got right here.
She turns left down the dimly lit shortcut.
She makes a turn. All this time, there's no sounds, no cars, nobody's going by. So next thing you know, as she proceeded to jog along, because it's a pretty long stretch here, right on the side, on the right-hand side, around the grass, I see a tree branch, tree-stump branch or whatever it is.
How big?
I can't remember exactly the size, but it could have been like this, maybe. It was pretty big. I had to grab it with both hands. I see that she's getting a little further, so I pick up speed, so I start running behind her. When I run behind her, I struck over the head, and I hit her right around here. Inside the head, she fell forward.
And he shows us on his map where he says he first hit her. It appears to correspond to the crime scene photos where police found her blood.
As she fell forward, the Walkman falls off and all that. I can't remember exactly in which way I dragged her, but I know I dragged her in there, somewhere inside the bushes around here.
Again, the crime scene photos show the crushed grass, the drag marks where the jogger was pulled into the bushes. Before you struck her, was she even aware that you were following her?
No, this whole time, you gotta understand, she had, that's the only Walkman that she had on. It's a pretty, it goes pretty loud. She had the music pretty loud because I could hear the music behind her.
So she wasn't trying to run away from you at this point?
Nah, never. Like I said, from when I seen her here, all the way to down here to where I attacked her, she never sensed it. She never seen it. Took off her clothes and I raped her in there.
No, she was resistant.
She wasn't, the reason she wasn't fighting, because I think she was in shock. I think the blow was pretty heavy because she kept reaching over her head and screaming out the blood. And I asked her, can she give me the address to her house? Because I found some keys in a little black bag. It was made out of Velcro. And
a Velcro bag.
Yeah, one of those little bags that joggers sometimes wear around. I was trying to ask her about her address because I was trying to go to her house and burglarize her and all that.
He says she wouldn't tell him.
I think that escalated the anger, whatever. I know the beating proceeded from there. And at one time, I guess she was conscious and scared, whatever, and she ran away from me. She ran away. That made me more angry, too, and the violence got more worse over there. I know I struck her with a rock. I left her there. I thought I left her for dead.
He says he left the park alone, just as he came in. Only now he was wearing her Walkman, her blood drenching the lower part of his pants. He says a policeman stopped him on the way out and asked him if he'd seen any kids causing trouble.
He says a policeman stopped him on the way out and asked him if he'd seen any kids causing trouble. Is Reyes telling the truth? Is Reyes telling the truth?